So recently on the channel, we of course talked about the alleged Nikkei report that said that Nintendo was not planning on doing any new hardware before the end of the fiscal year of March of 2023. That was reported to us by Mochizuki, but it seems like Mochizuki reported it wrong because that's not what was said in that article that he decided to translate from Nikkei. Whatever, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm not here to talk about how Mochizuki led us on with the Nintendo Switch Pro and we got an OLED instead. I'm here to talk about a grander situation, a bigger situation. There's plenty of people that will be talking about the base thing. Well, now maybe Nintendo's doing something between now and then. I mean, maybe. Time will tell. I want to go bigger, though. I want to go broader with this because now we have to get to the point of where people are considering, well, is Nintendo going to do a Nintendo Switch Pro, a Nintendo Switch Revision? Obviously, it probably won't be called a Pro. Or are they going to go on with a Nintendo Switch 2, a full-on successor to whatever Nintendo system we have? Or is it even going to be a Nintendo Switch 2? I think that's where things get very murky because people seem to think that it's a foregone conclusion, and I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think a Nintendo Switch Pro or a Nintendo Switch Revision is a far better idea, especially now and in the next few years, than something like going back to the drawing board and doing a Nintendo Switch successor. And that's what I want to talk about in today's video. If this is your first time here on the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell notification as well. But without any further ado, let's make my case here because there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me. But I feel like by the end of this video, you might be thinking like how I think. Now, obviously, the first reason is going to be something simple, something that doesn't impact us as gamers or anything like that. It's more of the business side of things, and that is of course keeping on the lineage of the system and keeping those system sales high. Right now the Nintendo Switch has sold over 111 million units worldwide. When you talk about a successor though, you obviously restart that whole thing. When you look at what Nintendo has done before in the past with something like the Game Boy, they actually classify the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color as the same system, which, I mean, clearly it's not, but when it comes to system sales, they classify it as the same thing and everything is just sort of grouped together. I think from a business side, I think from a business perspective, from a shareholder's perspective, keeping that same brand with just a revision instead of restarting the whole generation from scratch is a lot more appealing to your shareholders. It's a lot more appealing to your investors who, they kind of are a backbone of a company. Obviously, a lot of us don't have to worry about things like that. I kind of do because I have some Nintendo shareholder stock thingies and I don't know, they're down the toilet right now, but I just think it's a better idea from that perspective. Now, before we get too deep into this conversation, I do want to give a huge thank you to Raycon and the Raycon Everyday Earbuds for sponsoring today's video. What is Raycon and the Raycon Everyday Earbuds? I am so glad you asked. In today's world, everyone needs a pair of earbuds, and the Raycon Everyday Earbuds are the perfect choice for the job. Offering the best high-quality audio at about half the price of the competition, Raycon Everyday Earbuds look, sound, and even feel better thanks to the optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit. And once you put these in, trust me, they're not going anywhere. With up to 8 hours of playtime and 32 hours of battery life, plus various sound profiles, and even the ability to be up to 33 feet away from the device you're using the earbuds on, they are versatile and ready for any situation. It's super easy to navigate the 3 different sound profiles, plus these bad boys are water and sweat resistant. I use mine literally every day when I work out, and honestly, I couldn't imagine life without them. So head on over to buyraycon.com/RGT85 or click the link in the description box down below to get 15% off your Raycon purchase and join the over 50,000 5-star reviews of highly satisfied customers, and of course help support the brands that support me in this channel. Thanks to Raycon Everyday Earbuds for sponsoring today's video. But let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this situation. Why I want a revision or a Pro more so than I want a Nintendo Switch 2 or a successor to the Switch. Because let's be realistic here. Everyone assumes that whatever Nintendo does next is going to be a stronger Nintendo Switch system. Whatever this Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be, it's just going to be our base system, but stronger and produce better graphics and better frame rates, which, let's be real, that's the big issue right now with the Switch is that we're seeing the limitations of the hardware. It's a great system, don't get me wrong, but we're seeing limitations in the hardware from first-party games, third-party games getting delayed indefinitely for the Switch or coming out much later than they do on other platforms because obviously the Switch isn't the lead platform. And there's a lot of people that don't understand why that is. Well, it's the best-selling system. It should be. Sure, in a perfect kumbaya world, that's the way it would be. But when you're talking about development of a game, it's a hell of a lot easier to develop a game for the PlayStation when the architecture is so similar to the Xbox, because then you have two platforms versus just one platform with Nintendo. Whatever the case may be, though, with that, we are seeing the limitations of the system. We've been seeing the limitations of this system. So everyone in their mind is like, oh, well, a Nintendo Switch 2, that's perfect. It's just going to be the system and stronger. And I'm not so sure that that's the case. I'm not so sure that's the case. Look at what Nintendo has done thus far with their hardware in recent memory. We're not talking about the 8 to 16-bit era because that was a different time frame. The video game landscape was completely different as it was back then. Let's look at things like the GameCube to the Wii. The GameCube was probably one of the more powerful systems right alongside of the Xbox at that time frame, and it had mini DVDs as opposed to regular DVDs, which it was just a weird decision, but Nintendo's gonna Nintendo. Then you have the Wii, which was all based on motion controls, and that was like the whole idea of the system. It wasn't about power of the system. Then you had the Wii U, which was like some weird bastard hybrid of like a Wii and a Switch, but the technology for the Switch portion wasn't quite there yet, so the Wii U was just ended up being its own little system. And then of course you have the Nintendo Switch being this hybrid system of a hybrid nature, both a portable and a console for Nintendo, thus negating the need for what they were doing on the handheld side of things to even exist. So what in that path, what in that lineup of systems makes you believe that Nintendo would just be like, oh, well, we're going to do a Nintendo Switch 2, and it's just going to be a hybrid system, it's going to be more powerful, and then that's how it's going to be? I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think Nintendo is waiting to do something different with their new hardware because in their mind, different is going to sell better, which sometimes that's the case and sometimes it's not. The Wii was very successful because of the casual audience. The Wii U was essentially a more powerful Wii with its own library of games that fell completely flat on its face. Now, why did it do that? Because the system, when it came out, was a pretty strong system. They had unprecedented relationships with EA lined up. They had all this stuff going for it. It still has the first-party Nintendo games that people buy Nintendo systems for. You buy a system for an individual game library. You want to play Halo, you buy an Xbox. You want to play The Last of Us, you buy a PC. You want to play Mario, you buy a Nintendo product. And the Nintendo Wii U had first-party titles on it, but it completely failed. Now why is that? You could make a case for it either way. Was it bad marketing? Was it this, that, and the other? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the reason was. The end result was the system failed. So I don't necessarily think that Nintendo would just necessarily make a stronger Switch and call it the Nintendo Switch 2. However, if we're talking about a revision of a system, it would keep the same core principles. It would keep the same ideas. It would keep the same stuff, the same, docked and portable modes that you come to expect from this system. I feel like that's one of the reasons why this system is so successful. When you look at the game library, is it better than something like the Wii U was? Yeah, it definitely is. But you still have those Mario games. You still have Zelda games. You still have key franchises, first-party Nintendo franchises that were available on the Wii U that did not drive the system to sell. I feel like making it a portable and a home console definitely really helped the sales of that system. So negating that, going back to the drawing board and coming up with a brand new idea, that should scare the hell out of you. That should scare the hell out of you because this company isn't like PlayStation, where a PlayStation 1 and a PlayStation 2, what's the difference? It's stronger. A PlayStation 2 to a PlayStation 3, what's the difference? It's stronger. Rinse and repeat. Xbox, they're in their own little sphere. I don't think Xbox gives a shit about hardware sales. Now they're putting xCloud on televisions. Oh yeah, you can play all their games on your freaking television, blah, blah, blah. But that mentality might change once Game Pass starts getting those heavy hitter games that are exclusive to it from the companies that Microsoft has been purchasing. That's really a conversation for another day. I feel like the Nintendo Switch revision is what's needed. You treat it, and people are gonna get mad at me saying this, you treat the Nintendo Switch like a damn cell phone. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Cell phones come out every freaking year, okay, with incremental upgrades. Do you do one every year with the Switch? No, you don't do that. You do one maybe every 2 to 3 years. But the whole crux of the system is going to be things like artificial upscaling. The proof is out there. Nintendo themselves are working on things like similar to DLSS technology. If it doesn't work out, whatever, Nvidia makes the freaking chip of the system. You could do DLSS technology on it. You don't need an online connection all the time for DLSS. I don't know why people seem to think that. That's not the case at all. There are certain aspects of DLSS that need to be online, but that's just more for the update side of things. And so it's not something that's contingent on an online thing. You know, when you look at stuff like the Nintendo Switch online service, obviously Nintendo swears up and down that that's what they're keeping. Do you keep that on a Switch too? Because I mean, it wasn't necessarily easy peasy with the Wii to Wii U stuff. You know, they've had individual libraries of games on there on the virtual console side of things. This seems to be a more all-encompassing thing, but is that going to carry over? Because you don't really own any of these games. So there's a lot of strange things. I mean, the fact of the matter is this. The system is approaching 6 years old, okay? It's showing signs of wear and tear. President Furukawa could say, oh, we're halfway through the system's life cycle as many times as he wants. If that's the case, you want a 10-year life cycle out of this system. You want a 10-year life cycle out of what you are bringing to the table. I don't think that the Nintendo Switch as a system right now can sustain another 3 to 4 years of having high sales. Sales have already dropped off, okay? When you look at the video game industry as a whole, sales are down. But when you look at the Nintendo Switch, last year to this year, their system sales are down 23%. Now, yes, things like freaking, you know, new games and better games and stuff are going to drive that. But why even have to worry about that? Nintendo fans are a very die-hard community. If we go back to the revision aspect of things, people are going to buy this new system that care about things like graphics, that care about things like frame rate, that care about things like performance. You use the same library of games, you just make them more enhanced on this system. You don't even have to make individual versions of the games because it doesn't matter. It's all artificial upscaling. The end result is what all of us want. We all want better frame rates. We all want better graphics. We all want things like 4K output from our Nintendo Switch. We want companies to be able to utilize this system in a way to where they don't have to develop a specific version for the Switch. It just makes it a little bit easier on the development side of things. And a revision is a much better idea than a successor. I don't think you can argue that because we don't even know what the successor would be. That's the thing. That's the mystery. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Nintendo would just make the more powerful system and call it the Switch 2 or whatever, or the Switch Up or Switch Plus or Super Nintendo Switch. I don't think that that is a foregone conclusion. They've pretty much said that they like to have new ideas with their hardware. What new idea can you really have? The Steam Deck came along. Look, I'm not even going to talk about the Steam Deck. Just look at the video game console landscape between 2017 till present day, and look how many things have changed. Look how many things have been added into it. Look at how the evolution of this is growing. You're going to tell me you're just going to stay put for another 3 to 4 years and then release a successor system that we have no idea what the hell it is? You're going to try to come up with a new gimmick for it? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think if you just want a successor, you don't care about a revision, I don't understand why. So you're going to have to let me know in the comments section down below, because I feel like my case has been made very well. All right, I think I've made an excellent case about why the revision is what we need and not a successor. You do it like cell phones. Every 2-3 years, you make a different Switch model. Maybe it has a better screen, a better battery life or something. You keep the Switch system sales. You could eclipse 200 million, 300 million if you do it like that. You don't need a brand new idea. You don't need a brand new concept. The Switch is based on mobile technology. Embrace that. Embrace that and make it so that people can upgrade incrementally. You upgrade part of your dock, you upgrade part of the system. It's right there. It's right there. And I don't see how somebody can argue that a full-on successor is a better idea. But you're going to be in the comments and you're going to be trying to argue that. And you know what? I appreciate you. I appreciate all viewpoints. This is just my opinion. I'm a jackass. What do I know about anything? So let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this. Is this a man rambling at a cloud, or do you think I kind of make sense with this? And that's the direction needs to go, that Nintendo needs to go into. And it's kind of scary to think that they might not go in that direction. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Huge thank you to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. Check out the link in the description box down below or in the pinned comment, or go to buyraycon.com/RGT85. Get 15% off your order. I literally use them every day. That's not hyperbole. So yeah, go check them out. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.